Hi, kitty cat. Why aren't you happy? I forgot why we were here. So I've been receiving lots of questions about the brow pens that I use. I went into some detail about how I like to do my brows. I think it was just my like updated brow routine video, and I talked about pencils and brow pens. But a lot of people were asking me to use like the Anastasia brow pen, and then I happened to be on Ulta and I found a really cheap brow pen that I was like, what? So I wanted to do some swatching for you so that you can like hopefully find the best one, and also just kind of like review the Anastasia one, I guess. This is kind of random, but I want to talk about brow pens. That's the theme. Let's just pop our brows up real quick. If you don't know what I'm doing right now, then you're probably gonna wanna check out my brow routine video, and I go into depth, so I'll pop that above me somewhere and you can refer to that shit. I'm a huge advocate for brow pens. I personally think that they are the most natural way. I think they're the best product to get the most natural brows. My personal opinion. I think I just said that. I already have some favorites and I'm going to show them to you, but then I want to swatch two new ones that I'm really interested in, just so that you can get an idea of colors and application and blah, 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 whatever. So my first fave is actually the first brow pen that I ever used, but I ever really fell in love with, was the Glossier Brow Flip. I have two shades. I got blonde and brown, I think. Just brown, yeah. So the one thing that I don't absolutely love about these is that product comes out very quickly. So I have said this before and people think it's really funny because I'm talking about Glossier, but I use these when I want like a more intense eyebrow because so much product comes out. They're not like, it's not very sheer. It's a little bit more intense. Now you can see how thin the whatever these are. They're bristles that come together and form like a really detailed point, which is perfect for that, like drawing on those brow hairs and getting that precision. So here is brown, and then I'm gonna swatch blonde next to it, which is straight up red. So this is blonde, which is crazy. That looks like, I mean, that would be perfect for like a redhead, or if you're like a strawberry blonde or something. And then this is brown, which is the color that I like to use when I want to basically deepen up the very sparse areas of my brows. But I do love that product. And I will tell you this, it lasts forever. Like it has so much product in it. But like I said, a lot of product comes out, so you do want to be careful. One trick that I've been doing recently that I wanted to share with you, because it's like a recent development, is I will take typically brown and I'll see so much product at the end of the bristles, and I just don't want to like immediately start off with that because it's going to deposit a ton of color. So I always have a paper towel with me. I'll just do this a little bit and wipe off some and then start going in. And then as the product slowly comes back in, I'll do it again, just kind of like wipe it off, which might seem like a waste, but it works for me. But yeah, I still can't believe how freaking red their blonde is. Probably my all-time favorite brow pen is the Bushy Brow Pen by Lime Crime in Dirty Blonde. This is the perfect color for my brows. It's nice and light too. There's something really interesting about it actually. If you compare it, it's nice and light. It's like pretty sheer. It's not too pigmented, which allows you to build up more product. Obviously, it's gonna look a lot more natural, especially with like my, eyebrow tone. The color match is perfection. And then you can see like these two colors work really nicely together, which is why I'll sort of like deepen up very sparse areas with the brown from Glossier. Something that's really interesting about that shade is that it almost starts to go a little bit more green, and I'm olive, so if you didn't know. So it's incredibly flattering for my skin. This is probably my favorite one. I think this is $20 and these are $18. I'll have everything linked down below so you can check out the prices. But those are my three faves. So I've been using those for a long time now. Another brow pen that is relatively affordable, I believe this is by Rimmel. These are the Brow Pro Micro Precision Stroke Pen. The only thing that I don't love about these is that they're actually kind of thick. The applicator. It's like a felt tip and it gets a little bit thicker. So if you want a nice thin application, you really have to hold it back. You don't want to go like in too far. Did I show you the Lime Crime? This is the Lime Crime applicator. So it's the same deal. It's tiny little bristles that come to a point, like the Glossier. Anyway, so the one from Rimmel is actually quite thick, but I love the color. So this one is, the fuck color is this? Oh, that's gonna bother me. There is absolutely no color on it. There's like a color on the end of the pen itself. I think it's like a blonde or a taupe. I don't actually know. I have two shades. I'm gonna swatch them next to each other. That's very annoying that they don't have anything. So I'm Just going to assume by the bottoms that we have a taupe and a brown. So this is the taupe shade, or the lighter shade, which is a little bit more warm, but you can look at how red Glossier, the blonde Glossier pen is. That is insane. This is Rimmel. So you can see that, like, obviously I had kind of a harder time keeping it nice and thin, not that I was trying, but then this is the brown shade, which is nice actually. It's kind of the same deal. It's nice and cool toned. You can see that next to, or comparing it to the Glossier brown, it's actually a little more cool toned. It goes a little more ashy, so it's not gonna put too much warmth in your hair. Because one of the tricks for, especially for brow products, you might swatch them on your hand and be like, oh, that looks taupe, but then you go into your brows and you're like, that looks straight up orange. So it's typically going to look way more cool toned when you swatch it on your skin, because then when you start going into your brow, I don't know what it is about brows, but they just need to be like so much more cool toned. Those are the products that I've already used. I do like the Rimmel one, but it's not my absolute favorite because it's not quite as precise. Sometimes I use it. I was receiving a lot of questions about the Anastasia brow pen, and I was very interested, so I placed an order. This is the brow pen by Anastasia Beverly Hills in the shade Taupe. Like, taupe is basically always supposed to be like a universal shade, and I was really disappointed. I was disappointed. Just before we get into it, it's similar. It's a little thicker at the very base of the brush, but it is a similar concept. It gets nice and tight at the end. It is individual bristles that come to a point. The brush is really nice. I think the formula is really nice as well, but it's quite warm. It's like a little bit more orangey than the light shade from Rimmel. Obviously, like, if you're comparing all of these, Lime Crime is my absolute favorite because it's not too pigmented. You can build it up slowly. Anastasia one isn't, it's not as red as the Glossier Blonde. This is a fucking loser, you guys. I'm like, now that I'm really seeing it next to all of these other shades, I'm like, I'm probably never gonna use that again. But I was a little disappointed by how warm Taupe was. It's very, very warm. It's like a warm blonde in my opinion. And that just kind of ends up looking like very unnatural, I think, in your brows if you're using a color that's way too warm. And then while I was on, I got these things at Ulta.com, I found ALLLLL, lashes. They made a brow pen and I was like, what? This is also taupe. This is called the Feathering Pen. So pretty much all of them, with the exception of the Rimmel, that one was felt. The rest of them were all like bristles. I was so excited about this one. It's actually like basically the same color as my Lime Crime. Nice and cool toned. It might be a little bit too cool toned, maybe just ever so slightly, but like compared to the Anastasia one, it's so cool toned. It's nice and light, so you can build it up. You know what's interesting? When I swatch them, the drugstore brands, the ALLLLL and the Rimmel, are really kind of bleeding into the like cracks in my skin, while the Anastasia, Lime Crime, and Glossier ones are not doing that. So there's your difference when it comes to like spending a little bit more, you know what I mean? That color is really nice. It's very, very cool toned. Compared to the Anastasia one, it's not too pigmented. So if you're looking for, like, if you're just drawing individual hairs, I don't think that you're gonna have to worry too much about it bleeding if you're not going on like wet skin. So I wanted to compare these two to each other since they're very similar to each other in terms of like the bristles. They're basically the same length. Yeah, so the brushes look like almost exactly the same. So this one is Anastasia and this one is ALLLLL. So I'm gonna use Anastasia on this side. Yeah, see, already putting it down, I don't know how well you guys can see on camera, but it looks very warm, very warm. It almost looks orange. However, the formula is really nice. And the brush is very, very, has like a nice bounce to it. It's a little bit stiff on the end, so it makes it pretty easy to draw individual hairs. But this taupe, I'm very, very disappointed. That's not taupe. Do you see what I mean? It just looks like this whole part of my brow is just like orange. That's not taupe. I would describe my eyebrows as taupe, like my eyebrow color as taupe. That's not it. Now, ALLLLL on this side. It's taking a lot longer to build up the color. If you want more pigment, you can kind of like turn it to the side a little more. It's taking a long time actually. All right, so this, the ALLLLL took a lot more to try and build up that product. Again, I am on clean skin right now and I had gone in with a little bit of soap to set my brows, so that's one of the reasons that it might be like taking a little bit longer. However, the color looks much more seamless. It's that nice cool toned. It doesn't look disconnected when I look at this eyebrow all the way through, whereas this does. But this color was a little bit easier to build up. Now, having tried these two brow products, I'm a little bit disappointed in the color choice for Anastasia Beverly Hills. Like, I just can't believe how warm it is. It kind of makes me want to pick up maybe like a brown and see if that would be maybe a little bit more cool toned, but I'm a little worried that I might end up with the same kind of like Glossier situation where it's just like too dark and there's too much, you know? The formula itself looks really nice though, and the bristles are great. The Ardell one I had kind of a hard time with, so I don't know if it would really be worth the money. It is pretty cheap, but if you were like considering this one, I would be like, just go for the Lime Crime. It lasts well, the color is beautiful, it's perfect, you can build it up really nicely. And then I guess the Blonde by Glossier, it was just, if you're a redhead, then there you go. All right, I know that was like a pretty quick review, but I know people were asking me about them, so hopefully that kind of helps you if you're looking for a brow pen, and I highly recommend that you do because brow pens are the best. And if you are struggling with your brows, you should watch my most recent eyebrow routine because fly. See you next time.